When the alien queen told him he could wish for anything, her armies, her empire, even a new life among the stars, the entire throne room fell silent. No one expected the human soldier to smile, point straight at her, and say, "I choose you." And that's the moment her world, and the galaxy, began to fall apart. Captain Rylan Ward never liked palaces, especially the kind built out of living crystal that hummed like it had a heartbeat. Every glowing corridor of the Australian celestial spire felt too clean, too perfect, too judgmental. Or maybe that was just the dozens of alien dignitaries staring at him like he'd tracked mud across their sacred floors. He adjusted the strap of his rifle and whispered to the ambassador walking beside him, "They always look at humans like we're armed toddlers." Ambassador Kairos, tall and silver-skinned, didn't deny it. "Your species has a reputation," he said lightly. "Bold, unpredictable, overly comfortable with explosives." "Well," Rylan muttered, "they're not wrong. He wasn't supposed to be here." Rylan was a frontline soldier, fast reflexes, bad haircut, fire-in-the-blood type of guy. Diplomatic assignments weren't his thing. But High Command insisted a human guard escort the Australian Queen today. Something about symbolic unity and trust testing. He'd skimmed the briefing. Most of it sounded like political nonsense. What wasn't nonsense was the atmosphere tightening the moment the throne room doors opened. The air shimmered with suspended starlight. Towering pillars of translucent energy twisted like frozen lightning. And on a raised platform, surrounded by guards who looked ready to vaporize him at the slightest twitch, sat Queen Lixaria, the most radiant, intimidating being he'd ever seen. She wasn't just beautiful. She was composed power. Every movement precise. Every inhale deliberate. Her skin glowed with faint violet sigils that pulsed like constellations beneath the surface. The crown she wore wasn't metal. It was living crystal, branching like a burning halo. Her gaze locked onto Rylan before anyone spoke. Not on the ambassador. Not on her own council. Just him. He braced, expecting contempt. Maybe fear. Maybe anger. Instead, the queen tilted her head slightly curious, almost amused. "You're the human," she said. "No title, no rank, just the human." Like a rare specimen brought out of storage. Rylan straightened. "Captain Rylan Ward, ma'am. I'm here to keep you alive." A murmur rippled through the court. Some surprised, some offended. The queen studied him, not with suspicion, but with a strange, unreadable intensity. "Let us hope," she said quietly, "that you are as capable as your kind believes." Rylan almost laughed. "Don't worry, we're usually worse." Before the council could react, the chamber lights flickered, and the first shadow moved where no shadow should have been. Rylan didn't need training to recognize danger. His spine did it for him. Every nerve snapped alert the moment the lights trembled. Something was wrong. Too wrong. He didn't think. Instinct shoved him forward. "Down!" he barked. Queen Lixaria barely had a second to look offended before Rylan tackled her off the throne platform. A streak of blue plasma cut through the air where her chest had been. It hit the crystalline seat behind them, shattering it into blinding shards. The throne room erupted. Guards drew weapons. Courtiers screamed. Energy barriers flared to life. But Rylan didn't hear any of it. He rolled to his feet, pulling the queen behind a fallen column, shielding her with his body. Her breath hitched, more in shock than fear. "Release me," she hissed. "Not unless you want a plasma hole where your spine is." Something flickered above the far balcony. A distortion, a glitch in the air. Rylan raised his rifle, fired 3 precise shots. The cloaking field on a masked infiltrator collapsed. The assassin stumbled forward, then fell from the balcony with a sickening thud. Silence crashed over the chamber. A queen wasn't supposed to look stunned, but Lixaria stared at Rylan like he'd just rewritten the laws of physics. Around them, guards closed in, weapons buzzing, but she lifted a hand. "Stop," she commanded. Even her whisper weighed like gravity. The guards froze instantly. Rylan stepped back, expecting an accusation. Maybe a lecture. maybe prison. Instead, Queen Lixaria stood, gathering the remnants of her dignity as if she hadn't just been tackled off her own throne. Her voice projected across the hall, clear and ancient. According to the old code, the one who saves the life of the Australian monarch is granted a singular wish, bound, honored, and irrevocable. The court gasped. Someone dropped a ceremonial staff. Even Ambassador Kairos paled. Rylan blinked. A wish? I didn't do this for a prize. It is not optional, the Queen said, tone icy but trembling at the edges. Name your desire, human. Wealth? Status? Command of a fleet? Rylan's brain screamed shut up. His heart overruled it. I don't want land. Or power. The Queen inhaled sharply. I want you. The hall went dead. Lixaria's expression shattered. First confusion, then fury, then something deeper she tried to hide. You dare. The palace floor vibrated again. But this time, it wasn't an assassin. It was the beginning of something much, much bigger. No one breathed. Not the guards with trembling hands on their weapons. Not the courtiers pressed against the shimmering walls. Not even the Queen. Rylan wished, very briefly, he could rewind 5 seconds and stop himself from saying something so catastrophically honest. Queen Lixaria stepped toward him, every line of her face carved with disbelief. You choose me? She repeated softly, as if the words tasted foreign. Rylan swallowed. Yes, you. Her eyes blazed. Not with vanity, something more complicated. Something wounded. Humans, she whispered. Always reaching for what they are forbidden. Before he could answer, the floor shook, hard enough to rattle the chandeliers overhead. A second tremor followed, deeper, like the entire palace exhaled in pain. Guards scrambled. Advisors shouted orders. But the Queen held up her hand. Enough. Escort everyone out, she commanded. The throne room emptied in seconds. Only she and Rylan remained. She turned to him, tension in every muscle. You cannot ask for me, she said, her voice lower now, stripped of ceremony. You do not understand what that means. Then explain it, he said softer. I'm not trying to steal your crown. Her eyes flickered. No, you're trying to claim the woman beneath it. And she has not existed in a very long time. A bitter edge, a vulnerable crack. Before he could push further, another tremor rolled through the palace, this one accompanied by a sharp tone echoing from the crystalline walls. Lixaria stiffened. That sound. It's the foundation sensors. Rylan frowned. Meaning the attack was not meant to kill me, she whispered. It was meant to destabilize the palace itself. As if responding to her words, symbols lit up inside the walls. Violet sigils burning in rapid sequence, pulsing like a heartbeat under duress. Rylan watched the glow race across the chamber. That normal? It should not be happening at all. She approached the nearest wall and pressed her palm gently against it. The crystal reacted instantly, expanding into a holographic lattice of ancient symbols and shifting geometry. Rylan stared, stunned. It wasn't just a display. It was alive. The Queen's expression changed, fear twisting into recognition. No, this is impossible. What? Rylan asked. She looked at him, eyes wide with something that felt like destiny. These sigils only activate when 2 resonant bloodlines are present. 1 Australian. Her gaze locked with his. And 1 human. Rylan blinked. I didn't touch anything. You didn't have to. Her voice trembled. Your presence alone is changing the palace. Before Rylan could answer, the holographic lattice flared, and opened a path neither of them knew existed. The newly revealed passage descended into a spiraling hallway made of translucent violet crystal, glowing softly as if welcoming them or warning them. Rylan didn't like either option. Lixaria hesitated at the entrance, her expression torn between royal composure and something almost childlike. Uncertainty. This corridor doesn't exist on any map, she murmured. Not even the royal archives mention it. Rylan snorted. Great. Secret passages under your collapsing palace. Totally comforting. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. You humans cope with danger through sarcasm? It's either that or crying, he said. And I'm saving the crying for after we survive. A faint laugh escaped her before she could hide it. She stepped into the corridor, and the walls brightened around her. When Rylan followed, they brightened even more. He paused. Okay, that's not me imagining it. Lixaria turned, her gaze softening despite herself. The crystal reacts to resonance. Australian bloodlines activate it. But reacting to you? She shook her head, voice lowering. That should be impossible. Yet here we are, he said. They walked deeper. The air grew warmer, pulsing with a rhythm like distant drums. Symbols flowed along the walls, rearranging themselves in spirals that followed their movements. Rylan finally asked, "These symbols? What do they mean?" Lixaria ran her fingers over a glowing pattern. They're from the First Era, ancient Australian script. No one alive can read them fluently. Try, he said gently. She inhaled. This one represents unity. This one, lineage. And here. Her hand hovered over a symbol shaped like two intertwined stars. This marks a bond. A rare one. A chosen one. Rylan raised an eyebrow. Bond like political alliance? Her cheeks flushed faintly, violet against blue. Bond like two lives entwined by fate. It's mythology. Nothing more. Before he could tease her, the corridor ended abruptly at a circular chamber with a floating crystalline monolith at its center. It rotated silently, radiating a soft hum that vibrated in Rylan's bones. Lixaria approached it slowly. This is a memory core, a relic from before our civilization unified. The monolith flared as she touched it. When Rylan stepped closer, the entire chamber erupted in light. Images swirled around them. Fragmented visions of a human standing beside an Australian queen from centuries past. Rylan froze. Lixaria's voice cracked with disbelief. This is a record. Our ancestors were connected. Humans and Australians once stood as one. The final image formed between them. Two figures touching hands, activating a bond identical to the one forming now. Lixaria whispered, almost afraid of her own breath. Rylan. This wasn't coincidence. The monolith pulsed, once, sharply, and the palace shook with an explosion far above. The explosion above them rattled the chamber like a giant had struck the palace with its fist. Dust drifted down in shimmering cascades, catching the glow of the memory core. The hum inside the walls shifted, sharper now, urgent. Rylan scanned the ceiling. That wasn't structural settling. Someone's still hitting us. Lixaria closed her eyes briefly, focusing. Multiple impacts. Coordinated. They're trying to reach the core. She turned toward him, voice tight. If they breach this chamber, they can erase everything we just saw and destabilize the palace's heart. Okay, Rylan said, adjusting his grip on his rifle. So the glowing history rock is important. More than important, she whispered. It proves the architects have been lying for generations. Rylan's jaw tensed. Meaning, they've convinced half the galaxy that our species were never meant to unite. Her eyes lifted to the images still flickering faintly in the air, an ancient human standing beside an Australian queen. But this shows a partnership at the very beginning of our civilization. He stepped beside her, watching the visions shift like memories waking from sleep. Feels like the galaxy left out some pages. Lixaria's shoulders stiffened. No. Someone tore them out. A deep boom shook the floor. The sound of armored footsteps echoed through the corridor they'd come from. Too many to fight without backup. Rylan raised his rifle. Great. We're cornered in a crystal cave with ancient holograms and no exits. That's totally fine. Lixaria touched the core again. There is an exit, but not one I've used. The monolith responded instantly, splitting into rotating panels that unfolded like wings. A hidden staircase revealed itself beneath the floor. Rylan blinked. You've got to be kidding. Secret trapdoors now. Would you prefer staying here and dying? Touché. But before they could descend, the memory core projected a final image, clearer than the rest. a human and an Australian forming a bond through their joined hands, and the bond triggering a pulse of power that stabilized an entire continent. Lixaria stared, breath caught. This ability, it wasn't symbolic. It was real. Rylan swallowed. And you think we can do it? I don't know, she said softly. But someone believes we can. That's why they attacked today. The footsteps descended into the hallway. Closer now, weapons humming. Lixaria met his eyes. Rylan, if we take that staircase, everything changes. For both our species. He offered his hand, not as a soldier, but as someone who finally understood the weight of the moment. Then let's change it. They stepped onto the hidden path, just as enemy soldiers flooded into the chamber above. And so, with the palace collapsing above them and an ancient truth awakening beneath their feet, the human soldier and the alien queen stepped into the hidden depths. Together. Not as ruler and protector. Not as two enemies shaped by history. But as the first pair in centuries brave enough to challenge the lies that divided their worlds. The architects were closing in. War was seconds away. And yet, for the first time since he arrived, Rylan felt something unfamiliar flicker in his chest. Hope. Because whatever waited in the darkness below, they wouldn't be facing it alone. Their choice had already changed the past. Now it was time to rewrite the future.